Dear Mother and Father, our state is to build a new state capitol this year. There are to be 4 entrances to the building: north, south, east, and west, main building wings, and large dome and plan similar to the U.S. Capitol at Washington. The engines to warm the building are to be placed under the stone steps of the main entrances, so if they burst, the steps go up and not the building. It is to be built of stone and iron. Main floors are of marble.
October 2nd dawned bright and promising. The crisp fall air was alive with anticipation. For days, wagons and trains had poured into Lansing, bringing people to the capital city. More than 30,000 citizens came from around Michigan to witness the laying of the cornerstone for their new capital. It would be 30 years before Lansing would see such a throng again. For the occasion, Capitol Square was festooned with flags. Garlands hung from construction derricks jutting above the crowd. Marchers converged on the square from all directions. What were they celebrating? Of course, the construction of Michigan's 3rd State House. But the military marchers, farmers, and townspeople who joined the governors, legislators, and other dignitaries had come on that day in 1873 to celebrate something more.
We are not attracted by the magnificence of the proposed structure, nor do we come to pay homage to any architectural design, however beautiful. Why then this absorbing interest? It is because the structure here to arise is associated in our minds with that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which we call our public.
Critics had condemned the state's earlier capitals, first the Greek temple made of brick at Detroit, and then the wooden frame structure at the new seat of government in Lansing. Legislators had endured poor ventilation and dim lighting, state houses which were cramped and uncomfortable fire traps. The end of the Civil War saw burgeoning populations and developing economies linked to a tremendous growth in state government. The times demanded larger, safer, and more dignified quarters for conducting state business. In Michigan, Governor Baldwin had issued the call in 1871.
The present and growing incapacity of the state buildings, the insecurity from fire of the public records and library, calamity likely to result in irreparable loss, and the requirement of several years' time to complete the building sufficiently for occupation are, in my judgment, adequate reasons why immediate action should be taken to erect a new state house, with capacity sufficient for the proper accommodation of the legislature and all of the state departments, and commensurate with the present and prospective wants of the state.
But as the cornerstone was set in place, with the date of completion left uncut, the crowd knew it was celebrating far more than construction of a new capital. Speakers recounted the strivings, the accomplishments, the progress of the people of Michigan. They saw the building as a monument to themselves, to their hard work in wresting a new state from the wilderness. The building had become the symbol of their pride of statehood. In response to Baldwin's call, the Board of State Building Commissioners had announced a competition in 1871. They invited architects to design a building which would house and celebrate Michigan's government. The disastrous Chicago fire of 1871 underscored the need for a fire-safe capital. Some competing architects had lost their drawings in the fire, and the deadline for entries had to be extended. But by the end of the year, 20 designs had been submitted. Most were elaborate, but one in particular caught the commissioner's eye. Simple, without unnecessary ornamentation, it promised to deliver what they had asked for, an honest building at a low cost. They wanted a monument, but one free from public debt, something seldom attained in other states. The winning plan bore Michigan's motto, Tuabor, meaning, I will defend. It was the work of an enterprising carpenter turned architect from Springfield, Illinois, Elijah E. Myers. Myers had designed other public buildings, courthouses, city halls, and schools, and touted them as fire-safe. He had never designed a Capitol building before, but his plan for Michigan captured the spirit of the young state and its frugal, hardworking citizens. Myers would make his reputation with this building. Determined, he threw himself into completing the drawings for the Capitol.
March 8, 1872. Honorable H.P. Baldwin, Detroit, Michigan. Honorable Sir, I have all the drawings finished except the perspective, which will require about 5 days yet to finish in coloring. I will be able to forward the drawings to you at Lansing Tuesday evening. I have worked at nights late to complete the work. I think I will not be able to get through before the time stated. Very respectfully yours, E. E. Myers.
The building went up, rising floor by floor, until the dome and its delicate lantern dominated the Lansing skyline. Stone cutters, bricklayers, carpenters, laborers, and onlookers flocked to the city to work and to watch. It would be 6 years before the completion date could be chiseled into the cornerstone. The simple elegance of Myers' Capitol defined a building of beauty and character. It would be numbered among the period's Gilded Age state houses rising in the nation's heartland, and a model for other state capitals. His success secure, Myers would continue as an architect for another 45 years. He would design capitals for Texas, Colorado, and Idaho, and erect a public building in almost every state in the Union. Myers' two-aboard design was, former Governor Baldwin declared at its dedication, January 1st, 1879, an edifice every way fitting and worthy of being the capital of our growing and prosperous state for centuries to come. Certainly, Michigan citizens seem to agree. Right from the beginning, tourists flocked to visit their capital. State products found a showcase. Some new devices were even tested on the Capitol steps. It was the scene of public spectacles. Lucky Lindbergh and Lansing's first blimp circled the dome. Parades and patriotic observances, protests and rallies, all had their public forum at the Capitol. The distinctive dome was even adopted as an advertising symbol, a tribute to its easy recognition and evocative power. Today, more than a century since its dedication, hammers and saws are heard once again in the Capitol corridors. The building is again attracting the attention of architects, contractors, artisans, and the public. The Capitol is being restored, inside and out, preparing it for another century as the seat of Michigan state government. At the same time, restoration is rediscovering the fine points of this Victorian masterpiece. But the masterpiece was nearly lost altogether. For decades, time and circumstance had taken their toll on the building. Continuous, intense service, indifferent maintenance, weathering, all had diminished it. Architect Myers himself noted that fact as early as 1901, when he revisited the building in response to criticisms of his capital. He found ventilation systems were not being maintained, and the roof needed replacement. Maintenance would continue to be an issue for years to come. Compounding the problem were the many efforts to adapt the building to a rapidly changing world. As a progressive manufacturing state, Michigan adopted innovations eagerly. The Capitol became a logical stage to showcase new devices and processes. Electricity replaced gas lights. Typewriters became commonplace, only to be succeeded by computers. Telephones took the place of pages and speaking tubes. Elevators were added. Modern plumbing was installed. Electronic voting boards replaced the voice vote. Steam tunnels replaced boilers. Air conditioning replaced Myers' original ventilating system, considered innovative for its time. Copy machines were placed wherever space could be found. All of these changes had left their mark on the building, many detracting from it. Innovations were often added indiscriminately. The resulting tangle of pipes, wires, and ducts made the building harder and harder to service and maintain, and more dangerous. Fire was a continual and growing threat to the aging Capitol and its occupants. Cubbyhole offices and inadequate fire escapes added to the danger. There had been several minor fires, but it was not until 1951 that a disastrous blaze in a nearby state office building underscored the danger to the Capitol. The fire marshal repeated previous warnings, and visitors were no longer allowed to climb the stairs into the dome. 4 archway openings on the 4th floor had already been sealed off in 1932 to keep the rotunda from acting as a flue. The Capitol was safer, but at a cost to its character. At the same time, the Capitol became more and more crowded. Originally, all state departments were housed there. As government expanded and evolved in response to the state's population and economic growth, the result was cramped quarters and a never-ending search for space. Even after construction of a new office building, State Librarian Philetus Phillips wrote in 1922 that the Capitol was still packed from cellar to garret. He humorously suggested that the state scaffold the rotunda and occupy the dome to solve the problem. Eventually, storage cabinets and desks spilled into the hallways. Weather and hard use contributed to the Capitol's growing shabbiness. By the 1960s, esteem for the architecture of the Gilded Age had fallen to its lowest ebb. Shoddy, meaningless, grotesque, dangerous, of little architectural merit or historical value, a detraction from the state's dynamic profile. These were terms used by the building's critics. All of these problems, crowding, fire danger, deterioration, disregard for the Capitol's architectural and historical value, led some to wonder whether Michigan wouldn't be better off with a new state house, a replacement more befitting the atomic age of post-World War II America. It seemed a simple solution to a complex problem. As early as 1922 and again in 1938, consultant Harlan Bartholomew had proposed a state office complex for Lansing, with a new Capitol to the west of the present one. In the 1950s, when the state finally launched what would be known as the Capitol Complex, land was condemned and cleared. A site was set aside for a new capitol at the western end of the new complex, just as Bartholomew had planned it. Architects began in the 1960s the job of designing a new building, but the solution would not prove so simple. Design after design was rejected. The process dragged on through the late 1960s without hitting upon a suitable plan. Political support for the new capitol evaporated. Public opposition mounted. Finally, the economic downturn of the early 1970s spelled the project's doom. But there was another reason why the plan failed. To many, the proposed structure just didn't look like a capitol. When Myers designed Michigan State House, he assembled certain elements: a graceful dome, a soaring rotunda, the balanced wings of the House and Senate. His successful design helped make these elements the model for state capitals all over the United States. They combined to create one of America's most widely recognized and enduring symbols, and not one easily displaced. The designers of the new capitol had tried. They envisioned a three-part structure representing the branches of government: executive, legislative, and judiciary, and a pylon instead of a dome. Their efforts proved frustrating and futile. The new design failed to convey the meaning of the old. But without a new capitol, legislative leaders in the late 1960s and early 1970s sought a make-do solution to crowding. They found it in the soaring ceilings of the Capitol. In a process called overflooring or double-decking, original 20-foot-high offices were horizontally divided. Floors were built halfway up, creating two offices where before there had been only one. New stairways were added between half floors. Drop ceilings concealed wiring and vents. Paneling covered the walls, and lofty windows were divided in half to serve each new office. Much of the building's original character was now hidden, altered, or lost altogether. Although the Capitol had been remodeled before, never had the alterations been so profound. But attitudes about historic buildings were also to change profoundly. Beginning in 1971 with its placement on the National Register of Historic Places, several events focused new interest on the old building. Probably most influential was the 1976 United States Bicentennial, which aroused public interest in historic preservation as an alternative to urban renewal. Americans had begun to view historical buildings as valuable resources. In 1978, the Capitol's cornerstone was opened, followed by the building's 100th birthday in 1979. Slowly, more and more people became interested in the Capitol and more concerned. In 1982, Governor William Milliken appointed a committee to study the future of the 1879 building. Later that year, the group had urged that the Capitol be restored and retained as the permanent seat of state government.
This Renaissance Revival building has been a part of the life of Michigan citizens for over 100 years. In many ways, it symbolizes their state and therefore deserves to be preserved for citizens of today and the future.
After it disbanded, committee members reorganized as the Friends of the Capitol to carry forward the goal of Capitol restoration. The nonprofit educational group continues to promote preservation of the Capitol not as a monument to the past, but as Michigan's center of government, today and for the future.
This building is a tribute to the citizens of the state of Michigan and the history of the state itself. It is an historic building of national significance. To allow this building to deteriorate to the point that it is no longer useful would be a shameful waste.
The process of reversing more than a century of deterioration and alterations began slowly. A pilot project to restore the lobby of the Senate chamber in 1985 would be the spark and model for future restoration. Paint conservators uncovered, cleaned, and restored painted walls and intricate designs obscured by age and overpainting. Period reproductions replaced a hodgepodge of furnishings. 19 distinctive chandeliers gracing the public hallways were also restored. During this process, the Capitol lost one of its most cherished legends. Long believed to be made of Michigan copper, the chandeliers contained steel, lead, iron, zinc, and brass, but not one bit of copper. Enthusiasm grew, spurred by Michigan's sesquicentennial. The House and Senate tackled a new project on the 4th floor, transforming a maze of rooms for committee sessions and hearings. Lofty ceilings were restored and skylights uncovered. Original furnishings were replicated and walls painted with colors and motifs suitable to the building. Addition of fire sprinklers in 1979 now allowed the reopening of the 4 archways onto the rotunda. The restored Senate lobby, chandeliers, and 4th floor contrasted dramatically with their dingy surroundings, providing a glimpse of what the building might become if fully restored. People were beginning to see the building in a new light, as a legacy handed down through generations, a tangible link to the past.
Children come up, or senior citizens or citizens on a vacation. When they come here, I think that they're going to learn something. They're not going to just be viewing some historical mementos. They're going to understand more about their government, and at the same time they will learn about Michigan's past. And I think that that's probably the real reason why we're going into restoration.
With momentum for restoration came concern that work not proceed piecemeal. A team of experts in all fields of historic preservation was assembled in 1987 to explore the building's history, use, and condition, as well as options for restoration and future maintenance. The team's research, reported in a preservation master plan, became the blueprint for all subsequent work on the building. Today, the Michigan Capitol Committee is implementing that blueprint for a full-scale restoration. The committee is a bipartisan legislative executive group representing the building's occupants, the Senate, the House, and the Executive Office. A phased approach to restoration allows the Capitol to remain open and operational during that process. The committee's role is one of coordinating and scheduling segments to minimize disruption and overseeing long-range goals under the Preservation Master Plan.
It has supplied a forum for the House members and the Senate members and the governor's people to sit down and decide how are we going to restore the Capitol building, and then how are we going to maintain it and to make sure that the people 100 years from now can enjoy the Capitol building as we enjoy it presently.
Groundwork laid in the master plan and ongoing direction from the Capitol Committee set the stage for more intensive research as each phase unfolds. The ornate Senate and House chambers and their public galleries, the historic quarters of Michigan's governors, majestic public corridors, the elegant former Supreme Court chamber, and the building's highly decorated and towering rotunda are part of the first phase of Capitol restoration. The first phase also includes the fragile sandstone exterior, which demands intensive research into techniques for cleaning and repair. The landmark Capitol dome requires attention to assure its continued integrity and durability. Even the grounds are being studied to return them to their original character. The second phase of restoration will involve removal of overfloors in office spaces throughout the building, allowing the return of dramatic 20-foot-high ceilings throughout. Transformation of the Capitol is underway on a scale as grand as its profile. Paint restoration experts are conducting chemical and microscopic research of original patterns and colors hidden beneath layers of paint and wall covering. Their research has discovered elaborate stenciled designs and vibrant colors that are being returned to ceilings and walls. Each discovery adds to the Capitol's re-emerging beauty and its growing reputation as one of the best examples of Victorian art in the United States today. The work is not all cosmetic. Aging and seriously taxed plumbing, wiring, heating, and cooling systems are being modernized as a major component of restoration. Removal of some overfloors has found original plaster weakened and separated from the lath. Plasterers correct this dangerous situation where it exists and replace elaborate cornices damaged by earlier remodeling. In the legislative chambers, the results may be the most dramatic of all. Ceilings of glass panels etched with state seals or Victorian designs will light sessions as original skylights once did. The original glass panels were discarded and lost, so reproductions featuring the seals of all 50 states of the Union are taking their place. Complementing brighter lighting and brilliant colors, chamber carpets feature patterns of the Victorian period. Wood wainscot and trim is hand-grained to replicate the richness of natural walnut. Rostrums and legislators' desks, designed by architect Myers, regain their original finish. The transformation will continue throughout the building until it glows with light and color from dome to foundation. The result, a building which is not only safe and efficient, but beautiful.
Even today, when you see kids, school kids in that rotunda, and they reach down to touch the glass, or they look up at the grandeur, that's what these buildings are all about. They're not for the few, they're for the many. And so it's an extremely successful building, and it made E.E. Myers a successful man.
If Myers returned today, he would find that his capital is being truly celebrated. He would appreciate the glimpse that restoration offers of a young state's struggle for progress and its pride in its past. He would applaud the renewal of the capital's traditional role of inspiring and reflecting Michigan's heritage and accomplishments. As the state moves into the 21st century, he would recognize that Michigan has as fitting a monument as it had hoped for on that day in October so long ago.